Hey everybody, Jeremy here from Shade Tree Vintage Auto and DD Auto and Salvage here in Logan, Utah. And today we're going to do an assessment on this car, which is a 68 Dodge Dart GTS 340 automatic, to decide whether it's going to be a project car or a parts car. So I know a lot of you guys are going to be thinking instantly, Jeremy, why in the heck would you be even considering parting out a 68 GTS 340 car? Well, there's lots of reasons. At first glance, as you can see, it's missing a lot of the GTS stuff. It doesn't have the correct hood. It's missing the bucket seats. There's a whole bunch of stuff inside the car that I'll show you here in just a second. And I have no idea what it is, but we're gonna look. It's been hit in the front end. You can see the front end's all messed up. There is an engine in it. I believe it's a 340. I don't know. We'll check all that here in a minute as well. But you can see it's kind of rough in the back specifically. Like I said, a bunch of stuff. All the glass is there, but it's all out. Does have the factory tack, which is really cool. But that's really the only GTS specific piece I've found so far. Tail panel's not the correct one. And like I said, it's kind of rusty back here. You can see what's left of the GTS emblems. Big thing is the floor is just totally gone. You can actually see inside the gas tank from the trunk. That's never a good sign. But we'll get under it here in a few minutes and decide as well. But really, the trunk lid's okay as far as body. It would need full quarter panels on both sides. This door could be fixed, but it does have a buckle in it. It does have a roof, that's good. All the front sheet metal would need to be replaced. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the AMD hoods are actually incorrect. So even if you're like, hey, well, you just buy the AMD hood, they're not correct. They have a seam, or not a seam, a body line that comes across the top here. And the factory hoods do not have that. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and lift the hood off since it's just sitting there and kind of go over a few other things. So looking at the engine at first glance, you don't know. It's got a different color intake manifold, all of that stuff. But I do believe it to have the 340 still. You can see it's got the correct 340 exhaust manifolds, which are a lot larger than like the 318 ones on the driver's side. And then the passenger side one is way different, especially down to this back side. It drops down, kind of hard to see, but it drops down almost like a header. Hey, look, there's the radiator cap. And it does have the correct valve covers. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that this 340 is probably froze up just by all the leaves, everything. It's obviously sit under a tree for a long time, but the intake manifold's not even bolted down. So we're gonna see if we can just lift that up and see what it looks like inside. But I'd be willing to bet that even though it's a 340 and probably the correct year, being that it has X heads, it's gonna need a complete and total overhaul. And if it's been full of water, it could actually have broke the block or anything like that. One thing to note, and this is a good part on the cars, it does have the fender tag. So you can see the fender tag is still there. And it does have the VIN number. Now 68, the VIN number is not on the fender tag, so you can't tell if it's the matching fender tag for the car or not. You have to look at the body numbers. There is rust. I know that's not a lot for a lot of you guys, but there is rust in the inner fenders, but likely may need to be replaced anyway due to damage. But anyway, we're gonna see if we can pull that intake real quick. Just lift it up and see how bad it is inside. Well, pulling the intake off, that definitely answers that question. It's obviously sat for a long time with the intake manifold off, leaves, water, animal urine, all that stuff going down there. I would say that engine for sure would have to be completely disassembled and taken hot tanked and then magnaflux, check if there's any issues. And then obviously if there was water down there, it probably will need board something anyway. So we don't really know how the engine is. So that's a negative mark for sure, because that just makes it a core, which cores are not bad, but yeah, just adds to a big expense on the car. So now I think we're gonna pull everything out of the interior and see if there's any good treasures or if it's just parts. Well, we pulled all of the parts out for the most part. It's pretty much just garbage in here, hiding rust holes. Look at the floor, and that does go down into the frame right there. So we'll look under it here in a minute and see how bad the frame is. Back here, if there's not frame damage, I'd be really surprised, because there's like nothing left of the trunk floor. So that's definitely not looking good for it. And then as far as trim and everything that we found in the car, we found a fair amount, but only one piece of GTS specific stuff, which is that hood louver, and there's only the one. So I mean, you would have thousands of dollars just in finding the correct GTS trim. I mean, you've got that pair of louvers, you've got all the emblems, the tail panel. You would have, if you wanted to be correct, there's a piece that goes in the grill. Those are like $2,000 by themselves. The bucket seats, you know, you would have to find a set of those, and any more set of bucket seats, the correct ones, that would be $1,000. The back seat is completely the wrong one. You might could reupholster it and make it work, but I'm pretty sure that might be a Duster one, looking how tall the back is. Not positive, but I'm pretty sure that that's a Duster style. So far not looking good as a project car, but we're gonna lift it up, verify a few other things really quick, and then we'll kind of decide. Now that it's up in the air, let's go ahead and take a gander here and see the good and the bad. So the front frame rails, at first glance, they look pretty decent. Both sides actually look pretty decent. I'm rather surprised, honestly. It's got the 340K frame, and do have a 727 torque flight transmission. We know that it's going to need a front floor pan for sure. You can see right through it. It's all rusty up there. There's some rust over on this side. The rear frame pan, or trunk, sorry, the rear floor pan could probably be used, but once you hit it with a media blaster, I mean, you're in for a surprise. Obviously, somebody's already taken the center section out, so it probably had a sure grip at some point, and that's gone. The front of the frame rails look pretty good, but then it starts getting bad. So as you can see back here, this frame rail obviously gonna need to be replaced. This one doesn't look as bad, but you can see where it's all starting, so you'd probably just want to replace that. It's gonna need the lower trunk or dog legs. It's gonna need the whole trunk floor, probably even the piece that comes up and over. I can't remember what that piece is called. So you're looking thousands of dollars just in labor for the metal work, with all the trunk floors, quarter panels, everything, frame rails. Yeah, this poor car is pretty rough. A lot more rough than I was expecting. You would probably, to have this car, even if you did it yourself, just with all the parts, you'd probably be 25 or 30 grand just into parts. And that's at a very, very, very low estimate. So you're looking restored, you're probably into this car 80 grand or so if you have somebody else do it, maybe a little bit less if you do it yourself, which you could buy a 68 340 GTS completely restored for a fair amount less than that, which is a shame, really. I don't really like parting cars out, but as we're a business and we have to do this for money, I have to assess these cars just like this and decide, is it worth more as a project or is it worth more as a parts car? And I'm gonna go ahead and say this is worth way more as a parts car, because I don't think anybody would give me 35 or 4 grand for the car, even with a 340. I had the really solid red Dart Swinger 340 4-speed car, minus engine and transmission, that we ended up building into the duct tape Dart, because even though I had to advertise multiple times on all sorts of pages on Facebook and on eBay, nobody wanted to even give me 1,500 bucks for it. And as solid as that car was, I figured, hey, it's worth way more for us to just build it how we want and have fun with it than try to sell it. So unfortunately, I do believe this is going to be a parts car. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Realizing what it is, how much it would cost to build this car and everything like that. And then unfortunately, pretty soon we are going to probably start stripping it for parts and listing everything on eBay. I wish I could sell the whole car as a whole in a project, but I just don't feel that this one is worth it, unfortunately. So yeah, well, thank you guys for watching. Again, be sure to leave me your input down below, and we'll talk again later. We got a lot of other cars we're going to be dealing with and figuring out, and I'll show them all right here on YouTube very first.